Welcome back. This is Newsfile, your most authoritative news analysis show. Well, about the swearing or non-swearing in and what it means for our constitutional democracy, I had an exclusive interview with Nana Amegache, who is the president of the Ghana Bar Association. Unfortunately, we don't have too much time. I'm going to play just a bit of that to you. So take a listen or watch.
Father, our attention was drawn to this fact by the editor of the Ghana Law Report. And we checked the law and we realized that we already have a law that deals with oaths, and that is the Oaths Act of 1972.
Correct.
NRCD 6. So when we checked the provisions of that oath, we came to the conclusion that once an oath is taken once, you do not have to repeat that oath.
Okay. For the benefit of our viewers and listeners, the particular law that Nana Amegache is referring to is the Oaths Act 1972, NRCD 6, and the particular provision, Section 3, speaks about unnecessary repetition of oath. Section 3.1 says, no person who has duly taken the oath of allegiance or the judicial oath shall be required again to take that oath on an appointment to any other office or on any other occasion. Subsection 2 of that law says, no person shall be required to take any oath on appointment to any office unless that oath is different from or in addition to an oath duly taken by him in respect of any other appointment. So you are saying that it is the case that what was done is the right thing. Speaker Do Ajaho needn't take a second oath after he took a first one in September of 2013.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. The provisions of NRCD 6 is part of the laws of the country. It has been recognized by the Constitution. The Constitution defines the current laws of the country and says that those laws are part of the Constitution and they should be respected by all.
Article 11.
Article 11. It is only where a law is inconsistent with the provisions of the Constitution, then the provisions of the Constitution prevails. So when we take Article 60, is there any provision in Article 60 which specifically states that the Speaker ought to take multiple oaths, or on any occasion that the President and the Vice President are unable to perform their functions, then the Speaker ought to take an oath before assuming the role of President?
So how do we interpret Article 60.12, which says that the Speaker, before commencing to perform the functions of the President in that acting position, shall take and subscribe to the oath of the President?
Yes. That is the language of the Constitution. The Speaker once, before assuming that particular position, took that oath in 2013. Now, let me make some comparisons so that I'll be clear in this particular matter. When you look at the provisions relating to the Vice President assuming the position of President in the absence of the President, no provision is made for the Vice President to take any oath. And in actual fact, whenever the President is out of the country, no oath is taken by the Vice President. Why? Because on the day of the swearing in of both the President and the Vice President took the presidential oath.
Nene Amegache is the president of the Ghana Bar Association. Like I said, it's unfortunate we are unable to play you the whole interview, but let's also listen to this portion of what he had to say.
Then coming to the position of Speaker, because the Speaker is not President and not Vice President, and only took the oath of the Speaker, whenever the Speaker is required in the absence of the President and the Vice President, or if they are unable to act as President, the Speaker is then required to take the oath of President. But once it has been taken, Section 3 of NRCD 6, NRC Act 6, states clearly that you do not repeat this oath. A written constitution is not interpreted like an act of parliament. In an act of parliament, you can take the words stated by parliament and interpret them strictly. But when you are interpreting a constitution, you need a broader view. You ought to open up and look at all the circumstances. For instance, is it the intention of the framers of the constitution, having stated that majority of ministers should come out of parliament, and having tasked parliament with certain responsibility, whereby majority of parliamentarians sometimes can travel out of Accra or travel out of the country in official duties for the country? Is it the intention in modern times that the president travels on Monday, parliament is constituted to swear the speaker, and then on Tuesday or Wednesday the president and the vice president travels again, and wherever parliamentarians are outside the country, they have to rush in order to form a quorum and swear in the speaker.
So are you suggesting that all along, the period when we summoned the MPs midnight to come and sit down and wait for a speaker to take the oath, and when the occasion demands the speaker has to take that oath, we were doing the wrong thing?
We had not addressed our minds to NRC Act 6. If we had addressed our minds to NRC Act 6, we would not have repeated that error. It was a mistake, but the mistake is not fatal.
Some say that, look, we have not only had precedents where the swearing in has, the oath has had to be taken, but we have actually gone to a constitutional review session, and the Constitutional Review Commission had admitted by our own submissions that there is a problem and then sought to cure it. So they made a recommendation that instead of swearing the speaker in, he should be presumed or deemed sworn in. That recommendation has been accepted by a white paper, and as we speak, that recommendation is floating, waiting for us to vote on it at a referendum to amend the Constitution.
Well, my understanding of that recommendation is that why do you even ask the speaker to swear an oath at all for the first time, when both the president and the vice president are unable to perform their functions? Once you have the hierarchy, it should be automatic, because in reality, the person who is acting in the whenever the president and the vice president are unable to perform their functions, performs no actual executive acts. The person only performs ceremonial acts. The reason why they put in these things is in the event of visiting head of state or somebody coming in, you have somebody there to receive.
So in fact, the recommendation that's been made by the CRC, which is now in the process for an amendment process of the Constitution, is unnecessary.
Well, it is unnecessary if we have to take NRCD 6. But let me also congratulate Professor Asare, Kwame Kufu, and all lawyers and media personnel who brought this matter up. It shows that Ghanaians are alive to their responsibility. They are watchdogs. They are reading the Constitution, and they are prepared to ensure that the Constitution is complied with. But I'm sure if the authorities had drawn the attention of these people to the provisions, because I have not had the benefit of reading any of them referring to NRCD Act 6, which is still in force because it's not been repealed and it's been saved by the Constitution. I'm sure they would have given a different interpretation to it. So let me congratulate them for bringing this matter up, and I think it's a positive development. Ghanaians should be alive, they should read the Constitution, they should bring these matters up for public debate.
Apart from that, there is also the Evidence Decree or Evidence Act, isn't that the case?
Yes, the Evidence Decree, Section 61, says that any time a witness appears before the court and he is supposed to testify, the witness is supposed to take an oath. It is mandatory. But what do we see in practice? It is because of Section 3 of the Oaths Act of 1972 that whenever a witness appears in court and takes the oath is taken once. You may come to court 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 10 occasions to continue that same evidence, but you do not take the oath. You are only reminded that you took an oath some time ago, so continue with your evidence. So the language is similar to the provisions of the Constitution. It said it is shall take an oath. But
those who have an issue say when the president and the vice are out, it is that occasion only that kicks in the need for the speaker to step in.
Yes.
And when they return, that period terminates. So taking it like a case, that case would have terminated. So if you are going into another one, you need to take another oath.
What is the mischief? Why do we ask the speaker to take an oath? You see, you have to look at the mischief that we are seeking to cure in bringing in this particular provision before asking the speaker on this occasion, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, come and sit in Parliament and take an oath. The president is taking an oath to respect the Constitution and abide by the laws, and the oath lasts for the 4 years. The vice president is taking that oath to respect the Constitution and rule according to the provisions of the law, and that lasts for the period of 4 years. So where the speaker is supposed to take the oath, and the speaker also take the oath to respect the laws and the constitution of the land, why do you think that in the case of that the speaker, it must abate?
Okay.
And in the case of a vice president, it should not abate.
All right.
The whole purpose is that you have sworn to the fact that you will respect the Constitution, you will respect the laws and rule according to the dictates of the Constitution and the laws of the land.
Okay,
and
sir.
therefore, having taken that oath, you are bound by it.
Okay.
The oath does not terminate on the return of the president or the vice president.
It is the function that terminates.
It is the function that terminates.
Okay, thank you very much. And like you said, if it's a mistake we have been making all over the years, this is the time we have seen that this is an error. And all right, thank you very much. And that was Nene Amegache. He's president of the Ghana Bar Association. Well, as you know, he has come under a lot of flack for suggesting that this is rather the correct position. Let me start with a lawn lawyer who was part of those who took the speaker and others to the cleaners. Yes, what do you say?
You know, very smart discovery after the controversy.
Yeah, he admits to me that even he himself and his members were not aware until they discovered this, and so...
Yeah. And so what is it that stopped the speaker after the Chief Justice had been to the House twice, for whatever reason? What is it that stopped the speaker from referring to this oath as the basis for what was going to happen before Parliament that day?
The oath decree.
The speaker spoke to Parliament,
Yes.
explained why he was not going to swear the oath again,
Right.
because he had done it once a year ago. And there's such an apparently credible explanation, and that was not delivered to the House of Parliament. So subsequent to that, controversy ensued, only for us to make this very smart discovery of NRC decree, now act. Because
Right.
and you are a lawyer, you have to educate me. Yesterday I dug into my library and I realized there is the decree one, but apparently it's been updated or reformed by...
All decrees have been updated to acts.
So are they in force?
Yes, they are enforced.
The acts?
They are enforced.
Because when I
Those
read...
that are not enforced have been specifically repealed by other laws.
Yes, because when I read the graphic and listen to the GBA boss, he talks of unnecessary repetition of oath, and he says no person.
Right.
But when you go to the updated one, it says a person. You get a point.
Part of the review.
Yes, so I think that,
Okay.
yeah, the updated one.
And it also depends on where you may have picked it.
Well, I picked this from a very important
Okay,
source.
so
And
let's
of
go
course,
on.
it
Yeah.
has presidential oath.
All
I
right.
realize that
Just
presidential
go on.
oath
Yeah,
is
just go on
included
with
in it.
your
You know,
submission.
so if indeed we are to accept this as valid, I think it then is the way and manner it was communicated. before the House, the omission to refer to the legal basis for why the Speaker was not going to be sworn in. But you tell us the matter has gone to court for interpretation, because perhaps there's still a gray area. This is, on the surface, very credible. Let me be honest with you.
Okay.
If it turns out to be valid, I then would have to offer an apology to those who were involved for the harshness of my critique last week.
Okay.
That I would do that in good faith.
Okay.
But I think that procedurally too, it wasn't handled properly before the House of Parliament.
Now, Ayaga, the lawyers who had spoken earlier and said this is wrong and stuck to their position, don't ask me whether I have changed my position. This is what they say. This law says, no person who has duly taken the oath of allegiance, underline, oath of allegiance, or the judicial oath. Oath of allegiance and judicial oath. That is not the oath that the Speaker will be required to swear. It is the presidential oath. So this law in the first place is a wrong, law to refer to.
The second.
Yes.
Read the second.
Yes, the second says, no person shall be required to take any oath on appointment to any office unless that oath is different from or in addition to an oath duly taken by him in respect of any other appointment.
Yes.
So this is not appointment. That's what they say. If you had heard Kwame Akufo and Dr. Edusei yesterday, they insist that this is not applicable.
Interesting.
Yes. Okay, Mama Yaga wants to digest it a bit. Let me go to...
I just waiting because you have it. You know, on that day, I was actually called by Joy FM, and I supported the Speaker's position. You heard me?
Yeah, I heard you. Yeah.
And I said that, you see, in my opinion, you should go to the oath itself and read it. What does it say? Is it timeless? Is it something that when you swear...
Timeless or limited?
No, is it timeless in the sense that from the day that we start a term of office of a president to the end, anybody who is operating within the category of the team that will step in his absence, is that okay? Once they do it the first time, does it carry them to the end? Because somebody drew my attention to the fact that, look, okay, fine, how about the president? The president, when he's going for a second term, also still has to swear.
Yes, but his term would have lapsed.
But his term has lapsed, is that okay? So is it the same with somebody who is standing in a position to step in any time that the president is out of town? And I took a position that for me, the most important thing is to look at the oath itself. What does it say? And when I read it, I saw that in the first place, like section 3.2 is saying, the oaths are very similar. See, the oaths of the president and the oaths of the speaker, if you read it, you realize that they are very, very similar. Very, very similar. And then when you even take the oath of the president, it says that I will at all times. At all times. So I took a position that once you've taken this oath, at all times will apply to
No, but they are different oaths. They are, by the law, they are different oaths.
No, but you see, honestly, at that time, I knew that there's an oath, decree, which is now an act. And between the time that Joy FM called me and said, I want to interview you, and when they called me, I really didn't have access to the decree to look at it. But I'm happy that, Leonard Senior has referred to Section 3.
Okay, so what you're saying is that this is the matter.
I think you should end the matter.
Okay.
And let me also tell you that there are very serious logistical reasons why practically we should
Okay, that argument has been covered over again. Yeah. Abraham, what do you say? After, Nene has said this, seeking to say, well, this is how we should look at it. But you see, let me say one thing too. There are those who are accusing him that he spoke for the GBA and he's seeking to say his opinion is final. In fact, in that interview I had with him, if the full interview is played, you will hear him say that this is his opinion and anybody who feels any way about it, they have the right to go to court. And of course, the court will tell us what the right thing is. What do you say to those who still say, well, this is really not applicable? I've heard Kwame Akufo again. I've heard Dr. Edusei again. Ace Ankuma. They say this is not applicable.
Let me attempt answering your question by posing a rhetorical question. If it were possible for the vice president to become speaker in the absence of the speaker, would the vice president have sworn the oath to act as speaker? I'm just wondering.
You swear the oath of the speaker?
You see, these oaths that they originally took were in respect of certain positions. The president, the vice took an oath which is limiting them to executive functions. The speaker's oath, the one he took originally, is limited to his legislative functions. In my view, if you are crossing to perform a function which is incidental to your function as the original one, in my humble opinion, I think you should just swear it, because you are now crossing over. But you see, the vice president does not swear an oath to take over from the president because he's performed the same line of duty, executive. But with the speaker, he originally swore an oath to perform legislative functions.
Okay.
So if he's crossing over, in my humble opinion, I think that he should do that.
What do you say to those who say if the oath is supposed to be a standing one for all the term of the speaker, then it means all that period, the president and the speaker still has the powers of the functions of the president.
Even if the president
while the president is still around.
Yes.
That's an absurdity.
Yes, and so because and that's why I'm saying that it cannot be that the earlier oath still subsists. Then that would mean that Dua Joe is president, President John Mahama is president. But there's a point that the previous oath sworn by the speaker will truncate.
What point does it truncate?
I think when he returns.
According to the Constitution, he says when they return, then he stops the function. It doesn't say, he said when they come, then they resume their work.
Their functions. And so he can no longer perform the role of a president.
Yes. So are you saying that the oath should terminate with that period?
Yes. What did he swear the oath to do? Not to go to market, not to go to, but to perform that function.
We are being pointed to an error we were making all along.
Yes.
We have, through what we have assumed as an error, gone to a constitutional review, done recommendations, we are going to amend. We are being told that maybe all of us didn't look at this.
Which one? The
Oath Act.
No, the Oath Act, you have dealt with it. It talks about judicial oath. There's a separate judicial oath. It talks about
oath of allegiance.
There's a separate oath of allegiance.
No, but Mama Yaga refers you to if this is really what do you call it? It is similar somehow.
No, I think Ayarga's own was the presidential oath that Dua Joho takes. He says it's similar to.
How about this? If you were told that law, when it was being passed, we didn't have like a presidential process like we do have now. So now that we have a president, it should apply.
Yes, and the new one, the updated version, if you go into it, there's presidential oath. All the oaths have been listed, one of which is presidential oath.
Okay.
It's here.
Okay.
So basically, I think that, but you see, I'm happy that they are going to court to resolve it. Because he has actually raised a very technical and constitutional matter. I mean, the speaker. Does his oath continue? Is it triggered anytime the president is out of the country, or it terminates when the president comes back? I think that is the issue that must be resolved.
Okay. What does your non-legal mind tell you?
I think with this one, the lawyers are actually confusing me. Because, I mean, last week there were solid points that made me think that one position was right.
Right.
And then further on in the week, another point that came. So I think for me, it's neither here nor there. I mean, probably you have to go to the Supreme Court to interpret. But from my layman's point of view, I'm like, listen, if His Excellency John Mahama goes to Cote d'Ivoire, he's there as the president.
Right.
Why do we have to swear in another president in Ghana?
That issue also went to the Supreme Court
It's been dealt
by
with.
Professor Kwaku Asare in Asare vs. Attorney General.
Okay.
And the Supreme Court said that their absence should be deemed as being unable to perform their work. So we should have someone who is physically present in the country.
But when it's outside, when it's out there, isn't he performing the work as the president?
But they made a point, assuming something went wrong.
Exactly.
The two of them all are incapacitated. Maybe if in spite of technology, even if that too is also undermined, sabotaged, and they are being held hostage somehow. There ought to be somebody here who can activate those functions of being a
Assuming you wanted to declare a war. It's an emergency situation.
Yeah, very interesting scenario.
Well, I think we need to leave it to the Supreme Court to interpret,
Back
because
to the Supreme Court.
I've listened
to
some very learned lawyers, and they have totally different arguments in support of each position. So who am I, a normal human being, to try and challenge?
You're gonna make a street input.
Okay. Well, like I indicated to you earlier, I can confirm to you that Professor Kweku Asare, who is in the United States of America, yesterday, sometime in the afternoon, after we are doing all this, choboy, has decided to go to court, and he filed a writ at the Supreme Court. And he's asking, among other things, for a declaration that the Speaker of Parliament's refusal to take this and subscribe the oath set out in relation to the office of the President on November 5, 2014, when the President and Vice were both unable to perform the functions of the President, violated Article 60(11) of the 1992 Constitution. They say the same thing and say it also violates, the action violates Article 60(12), that the action also violates the Supreme Court's own decision in Asare vs. Attorney General, and they say, among other things, that it constitutes a high crime, and for that matter, the punishment that is due ought to follow. So this is in court. Let's hope that it will start sometime very soon, and then this matter will be effectively put to rest. In that case, it means that the process of amendments will not be necessary.
The Supreme Court can make the amendment for us, but the issue of a high crime and those things should be taken off. I don't think we've gotten, it's too far-fetched. I think that we just need a declaration. That is enough. But high treason, the man is acting. The man did not say that I won't perform the functions. He's doing it. So
he's saying that.
No,
exactly.
No,
that's basic.
But the man indicated that he has therefore assumed and he's performing.
Did he even tell us?
No, the high treason.
He didn't tell us.
High treason is what I'm talking about. High crime or whatever is what I'm talking about. That we shouldn't go that far. If he had refused to perform the function, then that's where you're talking about.
But the argument there is that he hasn't got the power to be the president, and he's acting as the president. I mean, they can't.
I'm only intrigued that.
So that's where the high treason comes in.
Sorry, I want to hear Kweku. Yes, sir.
This discovery of an oath after the controversy and the fact is very, very interesting.
No, it's really after many years. So
smart
let's see how.
One, very smart.
Let's see how we go through it. And hopefully this should put all the debates
It's
to
a rescue operation.
Once again, Newsfile is brought to you by the kind sponsorship of Tonic Ghana. And Tonic Ghana has opened its doors. It's doing its test drive. Just call them 0501 338 072 0501 338 072 for a test drive of their most alluring Chryslers. I'm talking about their Grand Cherokee, which is 8-speed automatic eco diesel, and also their sexy Jeep Compass, rugged Wrangler, and the incredible SRT for just your taste. So try and get to Tonic Ghana and enjoy this particular ride. My guests in the studio have been Abdul Malik Kweku Jr., who is editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper, a regular panelist. Mahama Yariga is the Minister of Youth and Sports. He's also a private legal practitioner. And you're a legal practitioner. You don't practice. Is that what you want to say? Thank you very much.
He's rusty now.
He's not rusty. That he doesn't go to court doesn't make it. No, that's what I'm saying. You're a lawyer. You're a lawyer.
It means that
you're a lawyer. You're in private practice. Thank you.
Which is an offense.
You don't want to get into trouble. Don't worry.
It could be high treason.
In Parliament, you can take a certain certification and then you can continue to practice. There are people in Parliament who still practice.
Give me permission.
Okay, you are a minister. That makes a difference. Okay, George Anda is with Occupy Ghana. He says they will continue to occupy your minds. And if you're a minister, and your hearts, if you're a minister, if you're a public officer and you're supposed to do some job, he says, occupy your job or they will occupy you. And I will need you to occupy a certain MP who who says women who are engaged in adultery should be stoned. That MP needs to be occupied.
Did he really say that?
Yes, he says so in Parliament, simply because they are asking for better benefits for women when the relationships terminate in a way that is not good enough. Yeah. Well, Abraham Amaleba is a legal practitioner. He's a private legal practitioner. Yes. We meet in court most of the time. And he's with the NDC's legal team. As always, my shirt is provided by Latida. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon. The news is up next.